Hi, second grade. Welcome to KCS at Home Summer Edition. My name is Ms. Holmes, and I'm going to be working with you today to complete reading activity 3. Let's do a quick review. If this video is hard to understand in any way, there are a couple things you can try. The first is to turn on the closed captions if those are available. You could also adjust the playback speed to slow down the video, or consider watching short clips, then pause, listen, and watch again. You could also ask someone in your home to watch the video with you, and then stop frequently and talk to your partner about what you heard and understood. All right, let's go ahead and warm up our reading brains by looking at some sounds and words. Today, we're going to look at the long A sound. Now, I know you've studied long A before in your classrooms. So let's go ahead and do a quick review of some patterns that I know you've seen and used. A, consonant E, A, name. A rain. A play. Consonant A baby. Do those look and sound familiar? I knew they would. Today what we're going to do is add to this list and talk about some other patterns that make the long A sound. And here's our first one. It's one of my favorites because it's 4 letters that make one sound. Here we have E-I-G-H, A, 8, like the number. Practice with me. E-I-G-H, A, 8. Here we have 2 vowels that make one sound. They're a vowel team. Here we have E-A, great. Practice with me. E-A, great. Another vowel team. Here we have E-I, A, vain. Practice with me. E-I, A, vain. And here's our final one. Here we have E-Y, A, they. Practice with me. E-Y, A, they. All right, let's go ahead and decode some words. Remember, this is an awesome strategy to use as a reader when you come to an unknown word. Now, as I look at our list, I don't see any prefixes or suffixes. So let's go ahead and work to identify the vowels. Then we'll go to the beginning of the word, saying each sound, and then blend the word together. Let's look at our first word. I see a vowel team, E-A. I know they make the long A sound, so they'll say A. Let's start at the beginning. G, A, T, great. Our next word, A, S, T, A, K, steak. Our next word has a different vowel team, but I know EI also makes a long A sound. So that team will say A. Let's start from the beginning. A, vain. Our next word, A, veil. Let's go to our next column. I see an E paired with a Y. I know that team also makes a long A sound, so they'll say A. I also see a digraph, or 2 letters that make one sound. Here, the TH will make a hard sound, so that pair will say ugh. Let's start from the beginning. A, they. Our next word, O. A, O, B, A, obey. And there's our 4-letter team. Remember, that's 4 letters that make one sound, the long A sound. So that team will say A. Let's start at the beginning. A, T, 8. And our final word, A, way. If you can, go ahead and pause the video here and whisper read the list to yourself. All right, let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to do in reading today. Remember our essential question, how can we be responsible when we make a mistake? We're going to get a chance to talk about this question today and come up with some ideas. And remember, those ideas are going to be things that you can use in your own life the next time that you make a mistake. Our learning target is that we'll read closely to explain the lesson that the main character learns in the story. And let's take a look at our success criteria. Remember, these are the things that we're going to need to be able to do in order to be successful with our activity today. So we'll identify the problem or challenge in the text and how the character responds. Then you'll explain the lesson the character learns in the story, including details about the character's actions, thoughts, and feelings. All right, let's go ahead and talk about it and be honest. Have you ever made a mistake? Yeah, everybody makes mistakes. Maybe you looked at somebody's paper in school even though you knew you weren't supposed to. Or you really wanted something like that cookie in the cookie jar and you took it without permission. Or maybe you broke something on accident because you weren't following the rules. Remember, everybody makes mistakes. The difference is how you handle it. So let's go ahead and talk about that. How can we be responsible when we make a mistake? Many times when a mistake is made, people try to pretend that it didn't happen. They try to protect themselves by trying to cover it up or talk their way out of it, which leads to even more mistakes. So the first thing you're going to want to do is admit you made a mistake. Then you'll want to accept the consequences or accept responsibility for your actions, whatever happens. So that might mean that you have to go to your room or miss out on something. Then you'll want to be part of the solution. So take action and help come up with a good solution and follow through. Let me give you an example. You're walking through the hallway and you accidentally bump into someone and knock the books out of their hands. If you're going to be part of the solution, you'll first want to check on that person and make sure they're okay, and then help them pick up the books. All right, the next thing you'll want to do is talk to the people involved and tell them what went wrong. They'll want to hear what you have to say. Talking can be a good thing, and it gives you a chance to explain what happened. All right, the next one's the big one. You're going to want to apologize. Apologies are one of the tools we use to build good friendships and relationships. When you say I'm sorry and really mean it, it's because you probably feel bad that something you did or said hurt another person. Saying you're sorry is more than just words. You're also saying that you respect the other person and you care about his or her feelings. After apologizing, you might feel a little better, and the other person probably will too. When you apologize in a caring way, you can feel good because you're trying to make things right again. Sometimes a heartfelt I'm sorry fixes everything right away, and other times it might take a while for someone to get past feeling upset. You may need to give the other person some time. Even after you say you're sorry, you might still feel bad about what you said or did, but you can feel good about apologizing, fixing the mistake, or making up your mind to do better. And that's our last step. Do better next time. So learn from your mistake and try not to repeat it. All right, these are some big ideas. And remember, these are things that you can use in your own life the next time you make a mistake. Let's go ahead and do a quick review. When you know you're at fault for a problem, the mature and responsible thing to do is admit you made a mistake, accept the consequences, and be part of the solution. Recognize where you went wrong and be prepared to fully own what you did. Talk to the person or people involved and tell them what went wrong and apologize. Then move on from the situation, knowing you will do better next time. All right, let's go ahead and jump back into our text, the sign maker's assistant. All right, let's go ahead and summarize what we've already read in the text so we can remember where we've been. Remember, we were introduced to the sign maker and he was really respected in his community. He created beautiful signs. And he had an assistant, Norman, the sign maker's assistant. They had a really great relationship. Norman worked really hard at the shop, but one day he's looking around and he realizes that people do exactly what the signs say. And so while the sign maker's asleep, he paints his own sign. You can see it there on the door of the school. He runs back up to the window to see the effect of his sign. and people read the sign and do exactly as it says. They all go home. And then he looks around town for some more ideas, and he creates this sign, open for swimming, because swimming in the town fountain is something that he's always wanted to do. Then the sign maker goes out of town for a night, and Norman starts painting immediately, and he paints for a long time. Remember, we used our inferencing skills to come up with the idea that he probably painted a lot of signs that night. All right, let's go ahead and review our purpose for reading. You're going to read closely for details about the main character's actions, thoughts, and feelings. I thought a good jumping off point would be to reread the last page from activity 2. So let's go ahead and start there. As soon as the sign maker was gone, Norman started making signs. He painted for hours and hours and hours. In the morning, people discovered new signs all around town. Norman watched it all and laughed until tears came to his eyes. But soon he saw people becoming angry. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about it. So, how's Norman feeling about his signs? Well, let's see. Here in the text it says he laughed until tears came to his eyes. Is he crying? No, he's laughing so hard that his eyes are tearing up. Have you ever done that before? Yeah, he thinks all this is hysterical. But I also noticed this word in the text. It's a small word with a lot of power. It shows a change in thinking or a change in the text. So he's laughing really hard because he thinks it's really funny, but people are becoming angry. So we have two very different things happening here. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the illustrations because they're a big part of the text as well. They'll give us a lot of information. Do you remember the sign that Norman made for the toy shop? Buy Norman a present? Well, there are all the presents. People are doing exactly what the signs say. And this poor woman's never going to get to where she's going if she has to keep going back 3 spaces. And what about this one? Knock heads. Ugh, that can't feel good. All right, let's go ahead and add to our note taker. Remember, we're concentrating on Norman's actions, thoughts, and feelings. So let's go ahead and add that he sees that people are becoming angry. Okay, let's go ahead and keep reading. The sign maker is playing tricks, they shouted. He has made fools of us. The teacher tore down the no school today sign, and suddenly people were tearing down all the signs. Not just the new ones, but every sign the sign maker had ever painted. Oh my goodness. All right, let's go ahead again and look at the illustrations. So I see that Norman's painted a sign that says garbage dump and put it over the grocery store. That doesn't look good. And let's look at this mound of signs here that people are tearing down. I see some of Norman's silly signs like no more baths, but I also see some important signs like a stop sign, a parking sign, and a please keep off the grass sign. Remember, those are the signs that the sign maker made. So why are they tearing down all the signs? Why don't they just take down the signs that Norman painted? Let's look in the text and see if we can figure it out. Oh, here it is. They think the sign maker's playing tricks on them and they feel foolish. So they're tearing down all the signs. And look at this sign here, a detour sign. So it looks like Norman's closed the road and the cars are being detoured through somebody's house. Yikes. All right, let's keep reading. Then the real trouble started. Without store signs, shoppers became confused. Without stop signs, drivers didn't know when to stop. Without street signs, firemen became lost. Okay, So on the last page, we saw some silly signs that Norman painted, like garbage dump and no more baths. But when I read this line, I knew things were changing, that we've got some trouble happening now. Let's go ahead and look at the text and see what we have going on. So shoppers are becoming confused. That's not good because they're not going to be able to get the things that they need. And drivers didn't know when to stop. Look at this illustration down here. That's not good. And the firemen become lost. And look at this illustration. Did you see it in the background? The fire? And the firemen don't know how to get there. That's dangerous. All right, let's keep reading. In the evening, when the sign maker returned from his work in the next town, he knew nothing of Norman's tricks. An angry crowd of people met him at the back door of his shop and chased him into the woods. As Norman watched, he suddenly realized that without signs and without the sign maker, the town was in danger. "It's all my fault," cried Norman, but no one was listening. Okay, I forgot that the sign maker's not been in town. Remember, he went to the next town for a job. And so he returns and people chase him into the woods. What word would you use to describe how he's feeling, probably? I would say probably really confused, don't you think? He has no clue what's going on. And here we have a change in our character. So Norman realizes that without signs and without the sign maker, the town was in danger. And he says something important. It's all my fault. What does he realize at this point in the text? Yeah, he figures out that he's made a mistake. All right, let's go ahead and add those things to our note taker. So he realizes that the town is in danger without signs, and he says, it's all my fault. So he's finally realizing that he's made a mistake. All right, let's continue. Late that night, the sign maker returned and saw a light on in his shop. Norman was feverishly painting. While the town slept and the sign maker watched, Norman put up stop signs, shop signs, street signs, danger signs, and welcome signs, in and out signs, large and small signs, new and beautiful signs. He returned all his presents and cleared away the garbage at the grocery store. It was morning when he finished putting up his last sign for the entire town to see. Then Norman packed his things and locked up the shop. But as he turned to go, he discovered the sign maker and all the townspeople gathered at the door. Okay, we have a lot of things happening on this page. I wanted to point out this, that Norman was feverishly painting in the shop. Now, this word feverishly has two suffixes on it. ISH is also a suffix, but I wanted to look specifically at this suffix ly. When we put it at the end of a word, it changes the meaning of the word. So here the word changes to an adverb. Remember, an adverb describes a verb or tells us more about the verb. So let's look at what verb it's describing. Yep, painting. So he's feverishly painting. Now, the word feverishly means to work in an energetic way or quickly. Why do you think Norman's feverishly painting? Yeah, he needs to fix his mistake and he knows he needs to do it quickly. So he paints new and beautiful signs and he returns all his presents. So he's working to be part of the solution, it sounds like. Does he do anything else? Let's see. Yep, he cleared away the garbage at the grocery store. So he's really working here to fix his mistakes. And did you notice his last sign? Let's read it. Don't blame the sign maker. I tricked you and I'm sorry, Norman. So here he's taking a big step. He's apologizing. And did you notice this? The sign maker watches him do all these things, which I thought was a little odd because remember the sign maker creates beautiful signs. So he could help Norman fix his mistake. I wonder why he watches instead of helping. What do you think? Well, I think because the sign maker knows that it's Norman's mistake, and so Norman needs to fix it and take responsibility. He knows that if Norman works to fix his own mistake, that he's going to learn a pretty good lesson here. All right, let's go ahead and add to our note taker. So Norman feverishly paints late at night. He puts up new and beautiful signs while everyone sleeps. He returns all his presents, and he clears the garbage at the grocery store. It sounds like he's taking responsibility for his mistake here. So let's go ahead and pull some things over from our concept map and add them to our notes. So he's being part of the solution by fixing his mistakes. And he apologizes. All right, let's go ahead and finish up this story. I know you're angry with me for what I did, said Norman with downcast eyes. So I'm leaving. Oh, we were angry, all right, answered the school principal. But we were also fools for obeying signs without thinking. You told us you were sorry, said the sign maker, and you fixed your mistakes. So stay and work hard. One day this shop may be yours. Perhaps, answered Norman, hugging the old man, but not before I finish cleaning those brushes. All right. So at the conclusion of our story, how is Norman feeling? Well, it seems like he has two different feelings here. So he tells the townspeople that he knows that they're angry at him. And let's pay attention to the way that he's talking to them. He has downcast eyes. So he's looking down or at the ground. So he's probably feeling, what do you think? Probably pretty sorry for what he did. And I might also use the word ashamed. But then the sign maker talks to him and tells him that he has taken responsibility for his mistake. And he lets Norman know that. So it sounds like everything's going to be okay. All right, let's go ahead and add those things to our note taker. So everyone is angry at him and he knows it. He feels sorry and also ashamed. All right, let's go ahead and look at our writing task. You're going to answer this question. What lesson did Norman learn in the story? All right, here's our note taker. Go ahead and pause the video here if you would like to use our notes that we've pulled from the text to help you in your writing. All right, let's review what we've learned today. We talked about how we can be responsible when we make a mistake. We read closely to explain the lesson that the main character learns in the story. We identified the problem or challenge in the text and how the character responded. Now you're going to explain the lesson the character learns in the story, including details about the character's actions, thoughts, and feelings. Now, I also have an extension activity for you. Here it is. You can write a letter apologizing to someone for a mistake that you've made. And here's a sample letter. It has 4 main parts. You're going to want to start with the date up in the top right-hand corner. Don't forget to capitalize your month. That's a proper noun. And you'll also want to include a comma to separate your day and year. Then you'll want to start with your opening. And that will start with the word dear, which is always capitalized. Then you'll write the name of the person you're sending the letter to and capitalize their name as well. And then end your opening with a comma. Then you'll want to write the body of your letter. So here you'll want to explain your mistake, take responsibility for it, and apologize for what you did. You might want to also include how you'll do better next time. Then you'll end your letter with a closing. So here we have your friend. The first letter of your closing is always capitalized and it ends with a comma. Then you want to sign your name at the bottom. Don't forget to capitalize the first letter of your name. Now, this letter ends in your friend, but you could use something like sincerely, love, your son, or your daughter. It just depends on who you're writing the letter to. Remember that writing an apology might be a lot easier than saying you're sorry. So this might be a great way to apologize for something that you've been thinking a lot about. All right, that does it for activity 3. Thank you so much for joining me. I had a great time reading this story with you. Remember to act responsibly the next time you make a mistake.